And we're live with another episode of Moped Outlaws. And our special guest today, Elaine Williams, is a no-show.
She took a ride. She went to Italy instead of coming to join us, apparently. Yeah. So we're gonna put on our podcast booking agency literature that if people don't show for their recording sessions, that they're gonna get called out from here on out. We're gonna make fun of them. We're gonna talk about how they don't have their priorities right because they book with us and then they disappear or they flake out. Like, oh,
that's her right there.
No, it's not.
You have to take your meds.
No, I already took my meds. Can't you tell? Anyway, you are all very lucky because this podcast started out as just me and Greg, and we've discovered from our episode a few weeks ago that hanging out with just me and Greg's a lot of fun. Yeah. And so we're going to have some fun on today's episode, and Greg and I are just going to talk to each other about things that are important to us. A minute ago, we were talking about one thing. I'm sure that'll come up again.
Sis, hallo?
Blijven.
Bestuur zeker wegen dem.
Joh je iets niet, joh.
Two outlaws on the lam, taking the back roads through America.
You can't drink enough coffee for this show.
And now it's time for Monday Madness with the Moped Outlaws, Greg and Mark.
I kind of want to start with interviewing you a little bit, Greg. Like, you recently were the producer on a film.
Yeah, co-producer.
What was that like? And what can you tell us about what the film was?
The film is on New Year's Eve. It's called New Year's Absolution. And it's these formerly five high school buddies that had this idea of doing New Year's resolutions into a hat and then drawing them out. Whatever you drew, you had to do that year. So now there's only four of them due to an accident that we don't really hear the details of. And it's like they're in their 30s. They're married or they're divorced. And one of them pulls out of the hat, kills somebody. I know.
Wow.
Right? Who the hell put that into the hat? And
off we go.
And like a house of cards. You know, these things like relationships that between spouses that have been kind of bitter and built up over the years, the tensions, like a shaken champagne bottle. It comes uncorked and pops in a big way. Wow.
So it's part celebration, part murder mystery, part psycho thriller, part
no, there's
melodrama.
No thriller and there's no murder mystery. It's quite evident what's going on.
Oh.
But yeah, there is some mystery to it, I would say, but it's not murder mystery. There's like, you know, who put that resolution in the hat? What the hell was up with that? And what I really appreciated was learning the creative aspects of blood, which I didn't realize was such a art form, but it is.
Got it. What substances are used, how you light it, how it appears on clothing, etc.
Right, exactly. How easily it cleans up. And there's a gentleman in Hollywood that we got this blood from, and he apprenticed with a woman who's Academy Award winning, and he made the blood. And I only know him as Dr. Blood. I forget his real name.
That's cool.
His blood was brilliant. It was the talk of the set night after night because it was so good.
Sounds like there was a fair amount of it.
Yeah, there was a fair amount of it.
Got it.
Yeah. And we shot on one location, this beautiful house in Loomis, California. And everyone involved, I think, was at the top of their game. It was, you know, there were some hiccups for sure, but we were shooting nights. So like breakfast is around 6:30, 7 at night. And then you shoot all night long. And that's just brutal hours to do for 2.5 weeks.
Yeah. Movie making is hard work. And from what I noticed, it was a really professional and well-oiled crew. So congratulations on that. What are your personal takeaways, like from your own personal challenges and experience in it?
I love filmmaking. I'm good at what I do. And I'm open to new romantic relationships in my life.
Got it. 3 takeaways. He loves making film, but in this case, we're talking digitally shot film. And
that's pretty much the film world these days.
Right, unless you're Steven Spielberg
or Quentin Tarantino.
And I've always known that you're good at it, and thank you for being so bold as to actually say it. It's true. For anyone who doubts that or who has any kind of issue with Greg saying it, when you got it and you can back it up, it's okay to say it. He said it rather with humility, I thought. And then as far as open to relationships, ladies, you got to get on this train because it's not going to be at the station forever. He's done a lot of work. You know, he's a movie producer. He's a good man. He's very tuned spiritually and sensually. Like, okay, ad over, Greg.
Thanks.
Hope the check's in the mail.
Thanks. Yeah, it is.
It's got a few zeros
down by the river, right?
It's got a few zeros in it.
Oh, like yeah.
3.
It's got 3. A lot of zeros.
0.00.
Yeah, it's just all zeros.
Yeah. All right. And, you know, I'm disappointed that our guest didn't come, but I'm super happy to be doing this with you. And I've seen you grow as a podcaster, and I've had to grow recently to sort of help with the way this gets produced while you were shooting. And while you were away, I was thinking, every time I saw your social media, I was like, wow, that looks great. I really want his help on the grandmother war. So I'm hoping you and I can talk about that either off the air or on the air about what it would take to move that project forward a little bit and get you into the film.io arena, because you could be on there as a producer and list some of these projects you've worked on and see them grow, you know, in distribution and stuff. And it wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing for those people.
Yeah, the hardest part of filmmaking is raising the money and the business aspect of it. It's nearly impossible.
But you did it.
Well, I didn't do that part. Someone else did.
So you got paid.
I got paid. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what else is happening in your life?
My kids are in Mexico, so I pick them up on Sunday night, and seeing some high school friends Sunday at the A's game.
Awesome.
You know,
it's one of the last years that we can see the A's at the Oakland Coliseum.
I think it is the last year, isn't it? I think next year they move to Sacramento for 3 years.
What? I didn't know that part.
Yeah, they're going to be playing at the minor league stadium. I forget what it's called. SaberCats.
Wow. So they're not even like Vegas isn't even ready for them, and they're still going to just abandon the Oakland.
Yeah, because Oakland wouldn't play ball. Haha, you like that?
Yeah, that was pretty good. Nice. Well said, sir.
Yeah. That's, you know, Raiders, both teams attempted to play ball with Oakland. Oakland wouldn't play ball. So
yeah, Oakland said, look, we're not giving you $500 million. Screw you. We got people who don't have places to live and stuff like that. We're not going to support you multi-million-dollar franchises and just give you free lunch on our city's behalf. So
they went to a place that will.
Right.
And Vegas is known for its free lunches. So
it is actually. You can get a shrimp and steak buffet for like $19.99 still, I think.
I heard that went away. I heard that all you can eat buffet for like $10 was gone, but I haven't been to Vegas in decades.
Me too. So I have this false image of what's going on there, clearly. I haven't really wanted to go to Vegas since I went and saw Santana there a year and a half ago. That was a great trip. I loved that. But oh my God, I hate cigarette smoke. Santana was great though.
So, like, did you do anything besides see Santana there?
It was a pretty quick trip. I was there, flew in the night before, saw the show, flew in the night after the show. So there wasn't much time. I did do a little gambling in the casino that I was in. And at one point I was up about $1,000 and then I wasn't anymore.
Did you leave some money with them or did you?
Not much. I have a really cool way that I go about it. I walk into the casino to play with a stake. I go, okay, this much money. If the stake is gone, then I leave and I don't go spend any more money. I don't go back in the games or anything. If the stake triples in value, I leave.
All right.
So there's this range that I play. So based on what I said, I was up 1,000, which wasn't 3 times my investment.
Right.
So you can guess that my stake was somewhere around 500 ish. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And so I think I had like $200 left in my stake when I left because I didn't want to quite lose all my stake. So I played. I had a good time. I don't drink, so the free drink thing doesn't really work for me. But yeah, it was good. And Santana was amazing. And I stood in line for an hour and a half for the GA because I had general admission tickets to be on the floor. And I was like 2 feet away from right where his rig was, where he was playing. And that was really amazing. And so, yeah. And then I kind of want to go down and see Dead and Company at the Sphere, but I don't really have $1,000, $1,200 to invest in airfare and concert tickets and a hotel to do it. But the Sphere sounds like an amazing place to see them. So I'm sort of sad that I haven't gotten a chance to go see that. Something could happen. I believe in miracles. They are playing through August, so who knows?
Is John still playing with them?
John Mayer still playing with them. He's one of the contractual partners in that group, Dead and Company.
But I heard he was like this was his last hurrah with them.
I haven't heard that. What I've heard is that they don't want to tour because it's really brutal for the old guys. There's 2 old guys from the original band that are in there, and so having a residency in Vegas worked out really great because they just leave the gear there. Yeah. And they're there for, I think they should.
Well, they quit shuffling gear a long time ago. Come on. They're not loading amps and shit like that.
Right. True. That's true. But it's still a lot to hire the crew, to move the crew around, to pay for hotels and all that. So I think each of the band members too, the travel piece, if you have one flight to your hotel room on Wednesday, and then on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you play, and you have a flight home so that you're home Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it's still a lot, right? Like going back and forth twice a week is probably still a lot.
You think they go back and forth? I would think they would just live there for the duration. Their families could be there with them. And
I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to spend 4 or 5 months living in Las Vegas.
Is that how long? I guess it is kind of, yeah.
Now, there's some real tax advantages because there's no taxes there.
Yeah, what's the ruling on that if you're a California resident and you're earning money in Vegas?
Well, if there's I don't know, I'm not an accountant, so this is not legal advice, so please do not implement this. But I will say my understanding is that you can set up a residency there, and if there's a period of time, I'm not sure how much time, that if you spend there per quarter or whatever, then you're technically, you qualify for the tax benefits. So in theory, they probably did set up residences there, and then they saved a bunch of money on taxes. The quotes I've heard were between $2 and $6 million per show.
Wow.
That's pretty.
As a band.
What? For the band.
Okay.
So let's go with the low end too.
Right.
And it's 4 nights a week. So that's $8 million a week between 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people. So that's $1.2 million a week. It's not a bad paycheck for the summer.
Yeah, that's pretty nice.
But I'm guessing not everybody gets the same amount. Like Bobby Weir probably gets a little bit more than the keyboard player.
Well, so it's we have Bobby and who's
Mickey Hart and Bob Weir are the 2 remaining actual members of the Grateful Dead, and the rest are Jay Lane, Oteil Burbage, Jeff Chimenti, and John Mayer.
This is going deep into the dead.
The
I
brain
didn't know you
invasion.
were such a deadhead.
Right? I am. I really am.
Wow.
I'm surprised you don't know.
Well, I knew you liked them, but I didn't think you were a deadhead, like a Paul Coven deadhead. Yes, yeah.
There it is, the Jerry guitar.
Yeah, see, I thought that was more about you loving guitar. And
Yeah, they're the same thing.
is your partner deadhead?
Oh, not at all. Not at all. That just goes to show you, music's one of those things where you don't have to like the same thing. Like, what, I am a Swiftie. I'll admit that. She likes Taylor Swift. So
Did you guys see the movie?
yeah. Well, wait, I saw it. She didn't go.
Really?
I went
She's
with my
not a
sister.
Swiftie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great time. Did the people get up and dance when you guys saw
Oh my God, it was such a weird thing. Like, I'm in this theater, sold out, and 80% of it are girls who are between 8 and 12 years old.
And their moms.
and the moms, right? So the way it looked was it was pretty much like one mom for every 2 families worth of girls, but it's hard to tell. So anyway, the place was sold out. Like every show for weeks was sold out on this movie, which great job, Taylor. Like you sold out concert halls, you sold out movie halls. Anyway, so the first song, all the kids just stood up and started dancing around and screaming. I was like, my God, it's the modern Beatles. It really is. It's the 21st century Beatles. Taylor Swift.
That was pretty rad. Same in the theater. I went with Robin and a couple other people, friends of hers. Anyway, and yeah, everyone gets up, dances, trading the beads at the beginning.
Right. It's a tremendous testament to her talent, her business acumen, and her personality. Like, I get the feeling that if I met her, it would be a really cool conversation, just like talking to you, like a really genuine human being who has not really got a lot of pretense,
I know, it's wild. Like, she is someone who can afford to buy an apartment in Manhattan and then buy the apartment next to it so that she has, and that's one of her places. Like, her level of life is, what is that, Crazy Rich Asians money? It's like,
yeah, it's pretty high. It's not quite, rich tech bro level.
I think it is.
It's close. She's not. No, it's not. She's on the low billions scale, not the high billions scale.
Yeah,
like,
but when you're at $1 billion, like, what's it matter anymore?
That's a lot. It takes a lot of that's a lot of private jet time to burn up $1 billion.
Yeah,
but you could do it.
I don't know. Could you?
Yeah, flying around to see your boyfriend at football games and then flying back to Japan for your show. And
I don't know. I don't think you can burn through $1 billion. I wonder if there's an amount of money. Remember that Richard Pryor movie where he had to spend all that money in order to...
Yeah.
And he couldn't tell anyone? Like, I wonder if there's an amount that's just impossible to spend.
You know what? I'd like to find out.
Yeah, so would I.
So Elon, if you're listening, let's go into partnership on a electric moped. Oh wait, there's already tons of those. Sorry.
Yeah. How about a scientific experiment, and Mark could be the control, and I'll be the person spending the money.
I like how you did that, and I get 20% of whatever you spend is since I'm in control.
And I'll be and I have to spend the whole amount in a certain amount of time. Give me $1 billion and I can spend it in a year, I bet.
Yeah, I mean, let's just talk about it. How would you go about it? Like, what would be like the top 3 first things you think of if you were having to spend and not retain $1 billion?
That's the key thing. That was it, right? Yeah, with
Had to all be
that
gone.
movie, he couldn't have any value. Right, because I was thinking, well, you buy a sports team, but now you own a team, and there's value to that.
Right.
So, fuck, I forgot about that part. Jesus, crack.
Well, I got an idea right off the top of my head. I would definitely go to the Compton Cowboys, and they would get 10 million right off the bat. And then I'd also go down to every tribal council that didn't have a casino, like the Havasupai and the Hopi and the Blackfeet, Crow, and these various different places that I would find the people, not the tribal leadership, not the politicians in the tribe, but the people. And I would find a way to give every family $1 million. Right. And so that would take some time. Right. But here's the thing. You start giving people $1 million and it can mess their lives up.
Yeah. But.
Right. But still, because suddenly if every tribe, let's just say, Bozeman, Montana, if I went to the nearest tribe, and I'm so sorry, Bozeman, and to the tribal elders, I don't know what the proper tribe is for that area. But if I went there, maybe there's, 1,000 people who families who live there. That would be $1 billion, 1,000 million.
No, it's a million, isn't it? A billion's a million.
100 million times 10 is $1 billion.
Okay. 100 million.
Yeah. No, 100 million by times 10 is $1 billion. So 1,000 million is 1 billion. So if I found 1,000 families, then I gave them each $1 million, that would be $1 billion.
All right. Now I have to do the math.
Okay. Well, for those of us whose math brain still works, we'll wait.
All right. So you're saying 1,000 times 1 million
equals $1 billion.
Oh, yeah, it does. Look at that.
Whew, I'm so glad I wasn't wrong. It was touch and go there for a minute.
Math.
I was talking to my Uncle Sam, dancing bear, Grateful Bear, to make sure I was okay.
Was there a stipulation in that movie? Do you recall, like, we're about donating? Because he couldn't just give it away, right?
Right. He was supposed to spend it in the movie.
Right.
What is that movie? Do you want to look it up or should I?
You should. That was a great movie. I was young, and that was like, oh my God. Plus his love interest was cute. Just had a lot of good things going for it.
It's Brewster's Millions, I think.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh, I got it before Google.
Yeah.
I got it while I was typing. No. Brewster's Millions is a 1985 American comedy film directed by Walter Hill. The film stars Richard Pryor, John Candy, Lynette McKee, Stephen Collins, and Hume Cronin, with supporting roles by Jerry Orbach, Pat Hingle, and Tova Feldsche. That's a very unfortunate name.
I remember that it had a very 80s cast.
Yeah. There we go. So that's Brewster's Millions. It'd be fun. Think about what you would do, ladies and gentlemen, because it's not what you would get to keep, because it's not about you, right? It's how would you give it away? And how could you do that in 30 days? I think my tribal idea is a win.
Hey, did you see that documentary on Gene Wilder? That's on, I think it's on Netflix.
I haven't. I should see that. I love him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, since you haven't asked, I'll just talk about myself a little bit.
Okay. Well, we talked about your dead trip.
Yeah, that's true.
Hey, Mark, don't be standing in the corner playing the victim.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so
how do you tune the victim anyway? I don't know how to play a victim. Is that a brand of guitar?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. So I have been dealing with some issues in my left Achilles heel since September, when I was part of the All In initiation 21-day challenge, which involved me doing incredible feats of exertion, like walking 3 miles in under an hour and yada, yada, yada. There was a ton of it. Anyway, turns out I injured myself pretty badly back then, and I didn't get the proper treatment. So here we are 9 months later, and I went to the podiatrist this week, who finally got my x-rays, and he said, "Oh yeah, you have a partially torn Achilles tendon."
Wow.
Not just a strained Achilles tendon,
Right.
but a partially torn one.
Wow.
And he said, you're lucky it didn't tear all the way, because that would be very painful, and surgery is really tough on the Achilles heel. And he gave me a cast, a full-length calf height boot, which he said will immobilize it. And if I had a broken leg, it would heal in 6 to 8 weeks. But with an Achilles tendon, it takes twice as long. So I'm about 12 weeks in this boot.
Wow.
But I'm already feeling the advantages, because instead of like slowly ripping it again every day, walking around the house, it's having time to heal. And I'm doing infrared light therapy on it to increase blood flow, and then also ice. And I also started a workout program that's a pool-based workout program. So
you can do that. You take the boot off and go into the
Yep.
pool.
And what I'm not allowed to do, there's a run-in-place part of the pool workout. And I'm not allowed to do the impact part on my feet, but I can do all the upper body stuff. And I was actually super sore this week.
Nice.
They have these dumbbells that are floaty dumbbells. And you think this is hilarious, right? But when you put them in the water and you start to do reverse curls and tricep, that's serious.
All right.
Right.
Good.
And, I felt a little bit of, not, I guess sadness, but bittersweet sadness, because I was happy I was there. But also I realized I've reached the age at 61 where I'm in the pool with the old people.
I was just going to say, how did it feel when you looked around and you saw like these 80 and 90-year-olds? You're like, oh, it's come to us. Oh,
but I'm determined to get in the lap pool in the coming months. That's the next stage. And
I was running up hills last year, and now I'm in the wading pool with these 90-year-old geriatrics.
That is absolutely correct. That is an accurate assessment of where I am. But I'm still all in on changing my fitness level. So, yeah, and I feel good. I feel really happy.
I knew that you would. So good.
Yeah.
So good.
All right. Well, I think that brings us to the political portion of our call today. When we started this, you were talking about this idea of,
Donald.
Yeah. What was it you said?
That I think it's so funny that people are so upset that convict is going to be our president, is still in the running. But what is it? Not a convict. He is a
convict. He's been convicted of 34 felonies.
Yeah, a felon. That's the word I was looking for.
Well, he's a convict too.
Yeah. Yeah, but I would say he just got caught. We've been electing convicts and felons for decades.
No, actually, no one has been a convicted felon,
right,
until now.
Well, that's interesting. So are you only a felon because you get convicted? So if you rob a bank and you don't get caught, you're not a felon?
Well, according to the definition of the word, yes. To be a convicted felon, there has to be a preponderance of evidence and a jury that convicts you.
Yeah, but what about an unconvicted felon? You're still a felon if you rob a bank, aren't you? You've committed a felony. You're a felon.
I like where you're going with this. I can't argue with you.
So we've been electing felons for decades.
Perhaps. Can you name one?
President Nixon.
What was the felony he committed?
He
ordering the break-in of the Watergate apartments.
He bankrolled that break-in, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And he resigned, and then Gerald Ford pardoned him. For all of you folks who were born after the turn of the 21st century.
That was in the 1900s.
It was in the 1970s.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just Led Zeppelin that was going on back then in the Vietnam War. There were other things that were weird. And Nixon was the guy that opened the doors to China and began to normalize relationships with China, which led to the incredible sucking sound of all our jobs being sent overseas.
And all our garbage.
Actually, yeah, I think you're right. So when you think about the way China's gotten power over the last few years, and if you're a conservative and you want to blame China for all of this like stuff they're doing and being a threat, you have your great pal Richard Nixon to blame for all of it.
Man, a whole bunch of thoughts just crashed in my head and I flatlined. I have nothing to say. Now, there was
welcome to the party.
I know what it was. Do you know, I think we've already spoken about this, but you know what country holds the most United States debt? Like what country has the most loans out to? No, you can't Google it.
Oh, okay. No, I don't know is the answer.
All right, then now Google it and let's see if I think it'll surprise you.
Oh, wow.
Japan.
That's what it says. Japan, 1.1 trillion. China, 859 billion.
Yeah.
The UK, 668 billion. Belgium, 331. Luxembourg, 318.
But isn't that wild that Japan, we've borrowed the most money from Japan?
Well, it's not quite that we borrowed it from them. It's that we do these treasury auctions to fund the debt and they buy them.
Really? Is that how that works?
Yeah, it's not like we go to the Bank of Japan and say, hey, will you loan us some money?
So I need to hold one of those. What are they? A bake sale?
Well, you could. It's basically like a bond sale for if you have a company, you can sell a bond issuance. You're better off trying to sell shares because you're not going to get a bond sale if there's no share value in the company.
Oh, so Japan, like we have a United States bake sale and Japan comes over the salts, buys up some brownies, goes back home.
Yep.
And that's how it works. Cash those in at any time and go, you know what? We want our $1 trillion.
No, they actually have terms that are set as part of the purchase. Now, what they can do is sell those to someone else.
To Russia.
God, that would be interesting if Russia was buying. I don't think Russia's buying. But
why wouldn't they?
You know, people do get worried that, and I think China has sold some, which is why I think they're lower than Japan now. So what happens is when another buyer who holds those instruments starts to sell them on the open market, then the new issuances of the bonds that we sell, the treasury bonds we sell, they're competing. Oh, I've got these 30 years over here that you could buy for less than what the Treasury's selling them for. You can still have all the benefits without giving the U.S. government more capital.
Wow.
So we're in a really weird, like when we start talking about the financial way this country works, it's a really weird time.
Or the world works even.
Yeah, well, there's lots going on. The whole BRICS thing and, which is Brazil, Russia, India, and China.
And South Africa.
And now they're signing on, like every day there's a new story about how someone else wants to be part of it.
Really? I was wondering because I hadn't heard news about that in a few months. No. And what about, I have some French friends, and they are very concerned about the fascist regime that seems to be taking power in France. Racist political power.
Well, the most recent thing I heard on Bloomberg Magazine or Bloomberg Radio, which is not necessarily unbiased, but was this European Union former, like not president, but like former vice president of the European Union, saying that the shift in France is concerning, but it isn't going to affect the European Union's governing board because it's not enough people to tip the scales towards fascism in France or in the European Union. But it is on the rise, right? There's more and more people. And so what do you think the underlying reason for that is, Greg? What do you think that is?
I think people are angry. I don't know.
Well, what are they angry about?
The devil's winning. I think you look at what led up to World War II, and it just sounds like the same, like you're turning on a tape recorder from 1934, 1932. Oh, Germany, yeah, we don't really have to worry about them. It's not really that big a deal. Oh, sure, it's a little ugly if you live there, but, and then pretty soon.
Got it.
I hear that. Good question. So what
the
is
thing that people are mad about is immigration.
Oh, no, I think Sammy Hagar said it best. Ooh, this planet's on fire. Oh, it's Satan's desire. He's seen the rise, he's seen the fall. He's sure to see us all burn in hell.
Wow, that was a Sammy lyric, huh?
Yeah, good song. I really, there is an element where that hypothesis is as good as others I've heard. Like, oh, this really is the devil's planet.
I see.
Yeah.
So much for the Course in Miracles, huh, Greg?
Well, what's the Course in Miracles say? It says this planet doesn't even exist. It's a dream. Wake up from the dream, blind boy.
I don't think I read that anywhere in there. Could you what page does it say that on?
Page 563 goes all the way over to 572.
Got it. Spoken like the true devil that you are. Right now, our listeners, if we're in stereo, you've got Greg on your left shoulder and Mark on your right. And I'm dressed like an angel. And trust me, I'm no angel. And
trust me,
Greg is dressed as the devil. Trust me, he's not as evil as he wants you to think he is.
I am as evil as you think I am.
So now we know who put the kill somebody the thing in that.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past me.
Yeah.
No, it really does. Did you finish the whole book?
Yep.
Wow. It's quite the read.
It is. It was part of our required reading to go through it every day, for a year.
And you guys did the workbook too, right?
We didn't do the workbook. We just did the reading.
Oh, really?
I think that they went on, what we're talking about is there was this 3-year thing called the Initiate's Path. And I got to about 2/3 of the way through the second year. And then I decided I didn't want to do the work anymore. And first year was, reading the Course in Miracles book all the way through. And then the second year we started doing other Hermetic studies. And I think in the third year they go back to the Course in Miracles, but I'm not sure because I wasn't there.
All right.
So you were talking about the dawn, and we kind of got this really weird thing in America where we've got a president that is a convicted felon, and we got a president who is, it's not clear whether he's actually cognizant and aware or just a flesh robot who gets shuffled around in front of crowds and does the thing that his handlers want him to do. And God bless Joe Biden. I mean, I'm so glad that we've had him because I was really worried. I didn't want to have Trump again. And I'm concerned that Trump could be our next president. But honestly, the elephant in the room that not a lot of people are talking about is what an amazing person JFK Jr. is, or RFK Jr. is. Like, I really want to vote for him. And most of the people I come in contact with who are Democratic are super afraid of that idea, even though I know that deep down below the surface, they really wish they could vote for RFK too, because that man is talking some sense. Like if you sit down and listen to any interview with him and actually listen to what he's saying, it's not what they tell you. It's not that he's the crazy lunatic, conspiracy theorist. He's a rational guy who's argued over 500 cases in court with vaccine companies and environmental legislation. And he's really thought about and researched and understands the issues. And it's not like he wants to wreck our country. In fact, of the three people, he's the guy most likely to clean up some of the messes. And I would really love for him to be our next president. That would be my dream come true at this point.
And then what's his wife's name? Cheryl. Cheryl Hines would be our first lady.
I don't know. Yeah. Is she the Hines heiress or something?
No, she's an actress. I don't know if she's she's an actress. She's in Curb Your Enthusiasm. She plays Larry David's ex-wife. And
it's funny. I don't think he's married, but I guess who is RFK's wife, Google?
Well, it's Cheryl Hines. He is married.
Yeah. Oh my God. She's cute.
Yeah. And she's funny too. So we'd have a funny first lady.
Yeah. She's a comedian. She played Larry David's wife on HBO's Curb Your Enthusiasm. Yeah. So what do you think of this theory that at the last minute they're going to switch out Biden for someone else because the Democrats are worried
it's not going to happen because there's so much vested in Biden? Like it'd be like me saying to you, I don't know, like taking a stand and vesting all this effort and energy into this stand I'm taking, and suddenly I go, oh no, not really. And you'd be like, well, fuck you, Greg. I don't trust you at all anymore. I was totally. It's kind of like what happened with Healer and what's his name? The senator who was running and Healer was doing all that work for.
Bernie Sanders.
Bernie Sanders, right. Like when Bernie Sanders got undermined, Mike just went, fuck politics, because he had put so much energy and effort into helping Bernie. And then he saw him just cheated by the Democratic Party itself. Yeah. And he was like, oh, if this is the game you're playing, then I don't want this game in my life anymore.
Yeah. And there's a lot of disenfranchised voters out there who feel this way. And that's what makes RFK's candidacy so interesting, because so many independents are sick of the GOP and the DNC. And it's weird because there's a whole bunch of Republicans who want to vote for RFK and a whole bunch of Democrats who want to vote for him. It's just more and more. It looks like he's the guy for America. But like there's a debate coming up next week, and CNN and the political parties are doing everything they can to keep RFK off the stage because they don't want people to hear what he has to say. Because what happens if people hear what he has to say, they're going to go, wow, this is the guy. Like there's a rational human being.
Are you saying Biden and Trump are debating next week?
They're debating soon. I'm not certain it's next week. It's on CNN and it's very soon. I think it might. Yeah.
And they're trying to keep JFK off. Or
RFK. Yeah, they are. Absolutely, they are.
Oh, that's crazy. See, that's the thing.
He sued them because CNN is breaking a federal elections and FEC law. They're breaking a law, and he's suing them.
Good.
Because, because he's qualified to be on the ballot.
And so let's bring it back to France and the anger of the world. And you're saying that this racist party's being empowered due to immigration issues?
Yeah, what my theory and what I've heard and what I've read is that one of the things that's happening in Europe is the amount of refugees that are being absorbed into European countries like Britain, France, Germany, Greece, other places is so large that it's displacing their cultural norms. And so as a reaction to that, the more traditional white people who would be losing their political power because they would no longer be the majority in their countries are turning to racist politics of let's, preserve our culture and don't allow these people in, or don't give them voting rights or any of those things, because they're afraid that they're going to lose their standing, their white privilege, basically. And I think it's real. I think what they're afraid of is real, but I don't think their fears are going to turn out the way their fears think. Like, it's not that they're going to lose their society. It's just, it's going to shift and change, and they'll have to compete in ways they haven't had to compete before. But there's also, I mean, there's this whole, you know, I'm going to have to call it, there's a culture of people that use violence as a way to uphold their religious beliefs. And they think that the way to maintain a, quote, moral code is to physically punish, kill, chop off hands people who don't fit into their code. And I think that that's a real thing. I think that there are a lot of really, really, really orthodox people who are like very, very violent about the way they enforce their religious code. And I think that culture is starting to infiltrate Europe. And I think that scares people, because no one wants to live under an oppressive situation like that. So the battle is, can we take that culture and shift it so that it could be adapted to a more open-ended, everybody gets to believe what they want to believe about God, and no one is subjected to cruelty as a result of their spiritual beliefs or practices. So that if I live in France and I have, I want to eat pork, and my wife doesn't want to wear a scarf around her head, I'm not subject to your rules against that and the violence and incarceration as a result. And I think that's what people are afraid of.
So they're really afraid that a very conservative Islamic factor would become empowered in France and turn it into a sort of an Iranian style country.
I think that's the fear. Yep.
That's a crazy fear.
Well,
you might as well
yes
fear
and no.
dinosaurs coming back to life and taking over the world.
Well, I don't know. I think the dinosaurs are a less likely probability, but I also think that you're basically correct, that it's somewhat unrealistic to think that Sharia law is going to take over. But it's not outside the realm of probability, because what's apparently happening is, in areas that are highly concentrated with that population, that population clings to its cultural mores, its cultural values, and they don't allow certain things to happen because it's considered against God to them. And there's a lot of them. So this is the rhetoric, right? This is the story that one side tells versus another. Ultimately, I don't think that fascists, European white fascists, are justified in being so bigoted and racist to try to, quote, protect their rights. And I don't think that Muslim immigrants and people who follow Sharia law should be trying to control everybody else's behavior. And I don't think that most of the Muslims I've met aren't that way. It's a fabrication. It's not that they want us to do something. It's they want to be able to do it the way they do it to get when they're together in their cultures. But laws are the law of the region. So if there's a majority of Sharia law followers in some county in France and they vote in those laws, they're voted in. That's how democracy works. And so that's a thing that could happen. Just like we've got too many people on the Supreme Court that are basically Christian evangelical appointees who want to limit the personal liberties of women in the United States. It can happen.
Well, it did happen. It did.
Yeah.
Do you hold all this stuff with a lens? Like, I hold all this stuff with this lens of spirituality, thinking of Kali and Pele and the destructive element of our spiritual realm, and how there's a cleansing process in the spiritual evolution of life, and that in these entities is also a lot of compassion. So, like, Kali is thought of to be one of the most compassionate of the deities of Hinduism. So I kind of see all this chaos and madness and destruction that's happening and anger as it's temporary. It's a means to a better end. Yeah, it's going to be painful, but in it is still the seed of compassion.
So do you want to reframe the question so that it's an answerable question, or do you just want to leave it like that?
I realized I didn't have a question. I realized I was just making a statement about my own lens and belief. Do you think
it's sort of implicit that you want to hear from me about it, right? Well, what do I think?
Let me ask you this. Like, yeah, do you think there's benefit to my viewpoint?
I'll say there's limited benefit to it. I think that there's an aspect of part of what you said that I want to believe, which is at the end of the day, it all sort of is part of the evolution of humanity.
And that is a positive evolution.
Well, that's where I think I differ with you. Because I actually don't think that it's necessary for that level of chaos to occur, for the evolution to occur. And I don't think it's healthy, right? I also don't, from a geological time perspective, which is millions of years of the planet, we're nothing. We're just a little nothing.
Right.
And so in that sense, we're super insignificant from the point of view of the geological development of this place. But we think we're important because we think. And so that part of what you're saying is somehow humanity going to get to an evolutionary place where the thinking shifts as a result of all this chaos? And I think we're already seeing signs of that. And if you look in the right places, you're seeing people who've moved beyond the duality of these polarities of good, bad Muslim, good, bad Christian, good, bad Democrat, good, bad Republican. Like all of that really becomes a form of division and a form of distraction from what our core essence is of community-based apes that just want to sleep, eat, fuck, and be safe.
Pick
right?
bugs out of our hair.
Yeah, and we don't need to have wars about God. It's just stupid, right? And that's one of the things I loved about the ideal set forth in the American Constitution was this idea of, hey, you know what? We're gonna have some simple rules about you can't kill each other. But if I want to have a church and you want to have a synagogue and you want to have a Satan coven, we can all do that as long as when we get together at the grocery store, nobody gives anybody else any shit, right? You get to be who you want to be. And more we see in media this exploitation of our division. And I think that's social engineering. I think that's actually forces that want to try to manipulate us into identity politics, which is something that I think is real, and that's not the manipulation's there, but that's not who we really are. At the end of the day, if I take any slice, let's take 12 people and divide them up into various issuances of like, we got a Satanist, we got a Christian, we got a Jew, got a Muslim, we got a Confucian, we got a guy who loves Star Wars or a woman who loves Star Wars, we got a trans person, like whatever the weird mix you want to put together. And if we have the conversations together, we can those 12 people can arrive at a commonality of, oh yeah, like I want clean water. I want food that's nourishing. I want a safe place for my kids to go to school. And I want my kids to be able to walk the streets at night. Right. And then the rest of it doesn't have to, like, you don't have to be, if you don't want to transition from male to female, you don't have to. Right? You don't have to worship the Torah if you don't want to. You don't have to sit in a circle with the pentagram and the candles and say Satan Natas over and over again. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. But meanwhile, if I want to, just please leave me the privacy to do so. And as long as you're not sacrificing my children to your God, right, or killing my animals for your benefit, then we can agree to live together.
But that's where it gets very interesting, because you get into the neurological development of youth and how synapses and thoughts are very much impacted by environment. And so when are some of these beliefs, like, harmful to an youth's development? And who determines that?
Well, we have this idea of public school that's funded by the public funds. And so in that environment, the rules of the public apply, i.e., you can't force people to study a certain religion. You can't force people to adhere to religious codes in that space. So everyone's free in that environment. And so if you want to wear a death metal t-shirt or a shirt that says fags suck or whatever you want to wear, it's okay, because that's the rules. We get to be who we want.
Well, I don't think you can wear those shirts.
I know, but just hear me out. It's a very libertarian view, and I can understand it's problematic. Don't get me wrong. And if you don't want that, open-ended, then you're free to start a homeschooling thing. You're free to have a school that's just a Muslim school or just a Christian school. And if you fund it and you run it and you staff it with teachers from your own community money, then you get to do that. Right. And so you can look, like Catholic schools is a great example. A lot of very, very productive people who become highly educated, get master's degrees, come out of the Catholic school system because they're driven really hard by their parents and their community to achieve a certain level of the standards that are set as part of that. And so they then go on to other institutions. And if you want to continue to get a college degree, there are Catholic colleges, right? And so private education that has those kind of dogmatic, narrow beliefs, sorry, Catholics, I just said it, you're dogmatic and narrow. They don't get federal funding. They don't get community funding, right? Mm-hmm. And then if you go to a public college, that college gets tax funding. And we were supposed to have that. The University of California was supposed to be free for everybody who was a resident of California, because it was built on taxpayer money, and it's been funded by taxpayer money for a long, 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 long time. Tuition is only a portion of the revenue, and the land that they got that was robbed from indigenous cultures. It just gets deeper and deeper, right? But so how do we solve all this? I still think the idea is tolerance and the acceptance of people's individualized spiritual journeys. And then there's a limit about that when it starts to impact other people. And that's where we get into what the laws are, what crime is as a definition, right? So to me, I don't want to live in a culture where women have to be told what to wear or they face some kind of criminal prosecution, right? I don't want to be in a culture where people can walk the streets carrying firearms on their hips, right? That's my personal preference. But in Texas, if you want to carry a firearm, you can do that in certain places, right? That's how you want to live. And so that's how it all gets worked out in the quasi-democratic world of the American fantasy of democratic republics. And I kind of like that. So that's where I lean. And I don't really, to kind of call back all the way to like what you said about evil. I don't actually believe evil has enough momentum to take hold at that level. I don't think it gets to the point where everything burns up in a fire. I think we're going to stop just shy of that. And I could be wrong, and things are looking pretty close right now. The doomsday clock is closest it's ever been to midnight. And we got Hezbollah and Lebanon talking about going to war with Israel. And we got, Russia getting bombed by U.S. weapons from the Ukrainians, and, the BRICS countries all saying, we're not going to use US dollars anymore. Like you said, like there does seem to be some lines that are looking like they're going to intersect at a massive Armageddon battle, which is biblical set, right? But I mean, I remember thinking that the Russians and the US were going to drop the bombs on each other. I've been through this. I remember, Y2K, which is where we thought the world was going to end because of computers. And I remember 2012 when we thought the world was going to end because of the Mayan calendar. And, the things keep shifting because I think consciousness changes the timeline. And I think that there's enough people who understand love and peace and coexistence and tolerance that they're going to shift the manifestation of what turns out. Even if a few bombs get dropped, we'll turn back, right? We'll like it wouldn't surprise me if by the 4th of July, Israel drops some kind of nuke on the Middle East. Would not surprise me.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah, because they are really up against the wall, and the Hezbollah and the Lebanese and the Iranians are really seriously taking the gloves off because of what they've done in Rafah. And so that would very quickly change things to go like, oh, they will blow the fuck out of one of our cities. Maybe we better think about this. Right. And I don't think that they should, or that that's a reasonable approach. Like hey, Netanyahu, if you're listening, don't drop the bomb. Like that's not the best idea. But if I hear about it,
getting ready for like stopping this Gaza chaos. I heard that Israel was like de-escalating. That's not true.
Well, shall we continue with Mark's theories on political science and regional conflict? I don't know. I don't fucking know. I will say this about it. My sense is that once the Gaza conflict dies down and Netanyahu doesn't have the mandate of war, then he becomes a criminal in his country. He'll be brought to trial because he's got, like right before this, he had a whole bunch of things going wrong. The Israeli people were marching in the streets to try and get him out of power. And the only reason he stayed in power was because there was a war. So I think he will go to war with Lebanon and Hezbollah and possibly even Iran to stay in power. That's what I think of him. I think that he's the kind of man that would do that to maintain his control. I hope I'm wrong.
And on that pleasant note, we wish you all a very happy summer. Enjoy your mimosas and your what other drink? Your margaritas by the pool,
or in my case, your morning beet juice shake.
It's all going to be fine. Don't worry.
Yeah, as Bobby McFerrin said, do 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 do.
Don't worry, be happy.
Recording stopped.